Geek Dogs and DID. Here is Cat Julep, and we're here to talk all about our Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to create some content for Faith this time, and have a little bit of a chat about a video that we both watched. Now, we saw it a couple of weeks ago now. It was by Multiplicity and me, who is Jess. They are a DID system. Jess has 5 alters that are all boys, so there's, see if I can remember all the names. There's Jess, there's Jake, Ed, Jamie, Oliver. Is that all of them? Is there 5 altogether? She's got 4 boys. Jake's the American, and there's Ed and Jamie that are married, and then Oliver the son. Yeah. And they did this great video that was like 360, where she had actors playing her alters, and they had conversations that she had basically written down and discussed beforehand with her alters, all in her head, as
all scripted between them.
Yeah, and the actors were then told, these are the characters, this is who you are, this is what they do, and then they play it, and you basically get to watch a conversation of how she would communicate with her alters in her head, and it is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
To watch. And like, I was watching it going, wow, that it sounds like my head. I mean, my communication isn't anywhere near as good as hers, but just having like the voices talking over each other, and then having just one of them get like really, really angry, and you feeling this anger as well as the hurt of yourself. And there's these moments where she's talking about her old persecutor alter, Ed, and oh my gosh, like you have to watch it. There'll be a link on here because it is groundbreaking stuff.
It is, and it was. I found, and it's one of the things that we talked about in the messages we sent each other afterwards, that obviously one of the things that we wanted to try and do is give that there an actuality to what is in, as Jess calls it, the headspace. Mm-hmm. And for me, having had all these conversations and talking off camera, as we've done, about how we would expand that, it was a really interesting moment of that, it becoming an actuality, me seeing the conversation and those alters becoming, and those actors playing the alters. And I read a lot of the comments that people who have followed Jess for a while have had responded, and there's some really lovely comments, and a lot of people said how much they'd found that they could see through all the videos she's done with her alters, each of those actors really being and portraying and giving a voice to those alters. And that was incredible to watch and see that happen.
It was because they really brought them to life.
Yeah. And
they weren't just this voice change that Jess had. You know, it wasn't just she's now wearing more makeup than normal and dressing a little bit differently, and she has a bit more of an accent. Yeah. You know, it's this is a man.
Yes.
Stood right next to you that talks like this. This is one of the other men stood looking completely different, talking different, acting completely different, but yet so familiar for when you watch Jess and see her on her channel, because she's been very open about her D&D for years. She's one of the very first advocates that came out about it, and to see them do it and to go, actually, they are so familiar because you've been following the lives of these for years, absolute years. And Jess is lovely. We had the fortune to meet her once, and to kind of see it, it's so brave of her to actually do this. And this is the conversation that we've had in our head. And some of the things they talk about are stuff where you're like, wow,
it's a really honest, brave conversation, and doesn't shy away from some of the more difficult sides of what that conversation can look like. Yeah. And obviously we talked about it because we'd recorded it. We both watched it after we recorded the Scarlet episode.
Yeah. And there was times where I was watching Jess, and I was watching with a couple of friends of mine, and there's an argument where Jess has an argument with Ed, and Ed used to be the persecutor, and as we said before, the persecutors are the ones that generally they call, it's the bad voice in your head, basically. And if anyone kind of harms the body, it's generally a persecutor that's taking frustrations out on the person. So it's relatively common for the hosts and protectors to have conflict with the persecutors. Even when the persecutors are trying to come round, you still remember who they were and what they've done and how different they are to you. And there's this bit where he's basically shouting at her going, "Are you scared of me?" And she's like, "Yeah." And my friends and I look at me going, "I don't think you should be watching this." And I'm like, this is really close to home, because me and Scarlett obviously have had lots of issues in the past where we're starting to understand the difference of the two, and she's starting to know that she's actually heard and respected. She doesn't have to lash out. She doesn't have to try and sabotage relationships and things to get what she wants. But there's still that part of, if I let go and let her come through properly, it's like, I don't know what she's gonna do. Like, and it's a scary thing to let someone else take control of your body, because they are then basically, it's like giving someone else, access to your Facebook account or your Twitter and say, go and say whatever you want to people, and everyone will believe that it's you, and then you trying to say, no, someone else hacked my account.
Yeah. It's not me operating.
Yeah. It doesn't take away the fact that you may have sent a really nasty message to someone. They saw it come through as you. That initial pain for that person is real. Just because you weren't the one that sent it doesn't change it. You can explain that to them later. They're still going to be hurt, especially if they don't know that it wasn't you. And that's happened a lot with us in the past. So I have a lot of trust issues when it comes to Scarlet. I have even more when it comes to some of my passive alters, because they have been more physically harmful to me. And it was a very kind of very surreal thing to watch, but also so just validating, I guess, to know that someone else actually experienced it, and despite knowing about her alters for so long, still struggles.
Yeah.
And as hard as that is for Jess, obviously, it's nice to know that these things, it's a continuous process. It's not a one day you wake up and everyone is fine, you can all communicate beautifully. It's like the communication varies.
Yeah. And it, with the video again, we were talking about earlier about how there's the conversation where they discuss living one life, and the fact that that as a whole it's Jess's life they live, but there's that balance of trying to give the alters what they need. And there's the conversation around, is it Jake, the one that's not part of the family?
Yeah.
And about what he wants from things, and giving him a bit more time. So yeah,
it's so hard. I mean, for anyone that is having like any kind of identity issues, I mean, everyone at some point in their life kind of goes, okay, who is it that I want to be? What is like my core beliefs? And a couple of my friends at the minute, because we're all in our 30s,
and that happens.
So it happens. You get to your 30s, everyone has a bit of an existential crisis, because you're like, what is it that I want to do with my life? Who am I? Who's the person that I want to be? And I was reaching that stage when I found out about my DID. It's one of the reasons that I went into counselling, to try and discover myself, and then found out there were myself.
Many selves to discover.
Yeah, this is the reason you can't figure out who you are. It's because you are no more than one person. So now I have to try and work out that, but for essentially 10 different people. Primarily the core 5 of who we are, but that will extend to the passive ones as they start to become more active. They will be just as active as the others at some point, once everyone starts to work together. And it's like, well, who is it that I am? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? It's like, we have this amazing career and really successful in the field that we work in, and it's like, that's Danielle. It's like, and I enjoy doing that. Like, but I'm not as academic as she is for that. It's like I always wanted to be like I always wanted to be a counsellor. I wanted to be like a more of a mental health counsellor, kind of help people in that way.
Yeah.
And then there's Luna and Scarlet that want to create things.
They want to art.
They want to art. They want like they want like a store. They want to go around to like different markets and stuff and sell things and have that kind of old-fashioned sort of community. Hey, we can make this for you and sell things and put a smile on people's face in that way and kind of show off the talents, because they don't like being tied down. They like the freedom of being able to do something as and when they like. Being younger, you know, where it's like, actually no, we can't just live by creating things, unfortunately. One day maybe, I don't know, it depends if you guys want to buy my stuff. And then you've got like Anita that's like yeah. Anita's like, we can just chill out and play video games and just like, you know, read books and just kind of chill out. I think she'd be really happy just in like a log cabin in the woods with just like a dog and some books and like a shotgun at the side of her, just in case, you know, something.
Just in case, yeah.
Yeah, the complete opposite of Faith, that is, you know, off in the woods, living in a cave, being one with nature, talking to the animals and stuff. Anita would just be like sat there, the shotgun, just waiting patiently for stuff and hunting and things.
But otherwise, just living a peaceful, chilled life.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I want to do stuff. I want to help people, and everyone's got that core thing to want to try and help people. Others just want to stay away from all of it and just be in the middle of nowhere, away from everyone, because that will keep us safe. And it's like, we need to find a balance here, and it's
tough.
not easy.
And it was probably, I mean, I know for me it was quite, going back to the video, it was quite interesting having had all these conversations with you on a technically theoretical basis, in the fact that not that the alters are theoretical, but that because they're not actually hearing it quite often, it's you talking about them, although there has been a few times when I've spoken to them.
Yeah.
But seeing all of that conversation in the video from all of the people, where you started to just accept the actors were the alters and that this was Jess's headspace.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of what that you're kind of talking about into perspective. It kind of really gave it that sort of like, oh, weight of like all of the voices.
Yeah. It's like, actually this is very, it's very loud. It can get very overwhelming. Give me 1 second to put this on silent, because I didn't realise it wasn't. And it gets very loud. And when you've got a voice essentially kind of arguing in your head, and you have that background noise of people talking and muttering, it's very difficult to hear. And when you're having an argument with someone in person, you can walk away. You can walk away, you can slam the door. You can't walk away from your head. So if you've got someone arguing with you and nitpicking at you about a specific thing, you can't look out from that. And that's when you get sometimes where you dissociate properly, where you basically just sat. And I was doing this at the weekend when I put a tweet out about being dissociated in a blanket, and my partner just said, it's okay, you've got a cool down period. Which was just official letters that come through I can't deal with. So whether it's like doctors or it's like any of our like tax returney type stuff or child stuff, I freeze and I can't deal with it. And like on top of that, like a letter came through and I was like, I can't. I'm like, I just can't. And then I just like was in a blanket, just sat here, just going. And then I just drifted off and was like sat in a blanket for I don't know how long I was there for. And then I came back and I was like looking at my back going, I'm really sorry. I was like, I know I go from being like this really capable, competent person to just like this dissociated mess in a duvet. And he just looked at me and he's just like, it's okay, they're really competent. You has a cool down period. It's like just rest and you'll come back.
Well, there we go. And it is, you know.
And that's what it's like to have this, is that you go from being really functional people to completely unable to function at all. And everywhere in between, depending on which altar fronts. And having people that understand that just because you are currently sat in a duvet unable to do anything, like most people that have depression or other mental illnesses, it's a very common thing to need a duvet day, is to surround yourself with people that don't take that as anything kind of real. So there's no judgment there. It's just take that time to rest. Doesn't take away who you are. This you's really competent. We'll wait for them to come back.
Disorder, but we've obviously talked a lot about how it's that idea of acceptance, that for any mental health, it's that acceptance of the space you need, and sometimes that's okay, and that doesn't make you any less brilliant or capable or any of the other things you can be on any of the other days.
No, it's like sometimes the most productive thing you can do on that day is do nothing, any ice cream out of a bowl in a duvet. It's like that actually is the productive thing that you can do, because that's what part of you needs. You know, whether that part is an alter like mine, or if it's just a part of you that is just like, actually, I've had a really shit day, I just need to just chill out and watch a movie and just binge eat something. It's like we all have those moments, and I think more people need to be aware of actually embracing those moments and allow it to happen, and know it actually doesn't make you any less of a person.
And don't feel guilty or punish yourself, or, you know, take the day and then end up doing stuff anyway. You know, if you take the day, have the break.
Yeah, the world won't stop just because you stop doing something for a day.
That's today's lesson. Take a break.
I
swear we always end up with like something where we're just like, yeah.
So before we get too deep on that, we should probably discuss our D&D stuff.
And on geeky stuff and designing D&D altars, this week we promised Faith.
Did.
So you talked a little bit on and off about Faith. You talked about when you recorded one of your What My Altars By Me episodes.
Oh, you should have
Faith moment. But do you want to have a chance to talk a bit more about Faith, or how you see Faith?
Yeah, I will do, because that will help us create a race for her, because we pretty much know the kind of class that she's going to be, but the race we're not too sure. So to help me, I have got one of my little crystals, and I have my sage. I'm not going to burn it because it's a bit too late to be burning sage. But the smell of sage usually helps bring her a little bit closer to the front. Okay. Because she is very much kind of, she's a witchy kind of one. I see her as like an old shaman lady that lives in the woods. So the main thing with Faith, see if I can bring her a bit closer to the front while I talk, is I always thought that Faith was like a spirit guide. Okay. So I remember from about 8 years old of having an imaginary friend called Faith that had a pet wolf, and I have known her since then, and she's always been that kind of feel good thing that always kind of pushed me through. So in hard times, it was like being given like a hug from an imaginary friend in my head. And she's always kind of been there to kind of look after me and protect me. And she's always been very much into herbs and candles and crystals, and native Indian sort of wolf spirits, and that kind of very kind of shaman type thing is the feel that I always kind of got from her. And whenever I imagined her, she was basically like this shamanic lady that lived in a cave in the woods and had a pet wolf. Whether she was a shapeshifter, I don't know. Whether the wolf exists in my head, I don't know. The wolf could be an altar for all I know. I don't know. That's just all that I ever knew of her. And it wasn't until DID came out that I'm like, actually, she is an altar. She's like the good part of me. And she's what, as far as roles go, she's what's called a caretaker. And she's basically the grandma of the system, so to speak. She reminds me a lot of Rosie B. Stinger.
Okay.
But she's not a monk. If you watch the Acquisitions Inc. D&D stuff. The best example I've got of like common thing is in Brother Bear. Mm-hmm. Have you seen Brother Bear?
Yeah.
Yeah. The old lady in that.
Okay.
That kind of meets Kenai, and she's like arguing with the bear and like, oh no, the spirits have been amazing. It's that kind of thing where she's always been very much if it's meant to be, it will be. And everything's always been very fatey linked, and you know, these doors close because this is meant to happen, and you're not getting applied for this because you just have to wait and something else will come along. And she's always kind of pushed that just have faith that fate will guide you kind of thing. And it's a very kind of hippie spiritual sort of sense, which is completely the opposite of the academic logic
of Danielle.
Of where I would be with Danny and Danielle.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in the middle, and I'm like, yeah, I like homeopathy. I like I like the senses and the crystal for healing and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it works. I think it's all a nice placebo, but it won't do any harm, and it's quite nice to have around. So I do quite like my crystals and stuff. But she will write in Book of Shadows. She will create like spells. She's very much of like the pagan orientation, which is wonderful. And it's a part of me that I really enjoy, and it's always made me feel like a warm cuddle. And whenever she's around and my friends around, they're like, oh, we love Faith. We just want to cuddle Faith because she's just like so warm and comforting, and she makes everyone happy, but in a very calming way. Whereas Luna will come out and make everyone happy just from pure energy and excitement.
But it can be a bit tiring.
Yeah.
All involved, including you.
Whereas Faith's very much more of a, it's okay. And she'll kind of offer people like guidance and things. So she comes out a lot around my son if he's struggling and things to just help nurture him. And she's like that warm parent that everyone kind of wants. That's who she kind of reminds me of. So if you hear my voice kind of go really kind of softly speak, that's kind of changing a bit now, but really softly speaking and stuff.
You beat a bit like this, I think.
Yeah. It's general when Faith is coming forward, and Sage is always a really nice thing for her.
So one of the things we discussed, this might help her come forwards, that obviously we discussed that we thought she'd probably be some kind of druidic class, obviously the herbs and that side of things, and the sort of creating and the connection to nature, and the way that you can use herbs in making spells and things. Had you looked at any particular type of druid? Because you talked about you weren't sure whether she was a shapeshifter or whether the wolf was her or in your head or another altar. And obviously some of the druid circles get more V shapes is a possibility. So Circle of the Moon gets more use of their V shapes. There is also Circle of Dreams, which are all connected to elves and the magic of like fey magic.
Okay.
Which I know you talked a little bit about earlier about the off screen about maybe having some fey element, and I can't find it now. Circle of Dreams, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Can't look and talk at the same time.
That's okay.
Okay, Druids who are members of the Circle of Dream hail from regions that have strong ties to the Feywild and its dreamlike realms. The Druids' guardianship of the natural world makes for a natural alliance between them and good-aligned Fey. These Druids seek to fill the world with dreamy wonder. Their magic mends wounds and brings joys to downcast hearts, and the realms they protect are gleaming, fruitful places where dreams and reality blur together and where the weary can find rest.
Okay. So when I think of Faith originally, it was very much more like an elf sort of thing, or like a wood elf. But the more I look into like the D&D races, something more feel like, I was having a look at the Eberron races for the new campaign, because we've only got me and Danny and Faith left to do. So I was having a look at changelings. They can change their face and form with a thought. And one thing I like is they have masks and personas. and they can build an identity over time, crafting a persona with history and beliefs. This focused identity helps the changeling pinpoint a particular persona as like a skill or emotion, and they can have personas for many invested situations. And I was reading that and thinking, oh, that's quite cool. I was like, that's actually quite me. Like, it's almost like a DID thing, but not quite. And but they have Kalashtar, which sounded really faith-like up until the last part. So they're a compound race created for the union of humanity with renegade spirits from the plane of dreams. Spirits called the Quarry or Quarry. Kalashtar are often seen as wise spiritual people with great compassion for others, which I thought brilliant. That's very much in a faith thing. But there's an unmistakable alien quality to the Kalashtar. They are haunted by the conflicts of their otherworldly spirits. And that's the bit where I'm like, there's no negativity around Faith at all. You know, she's not scared of anything. She's not haunted by anything. She's not distressed by anything. She's very much a live and let live sort of person. You know, her value is on nature.
Yeah.
That, you know, nature will provide. You know, she has no worries over money or material things. It's a, you know, we know how to grow food, so we can always eat. You know, there's always water in the rivers. And so when I was reading some of these other races, I was like, they sound really, really cool, but I don't think they're quite shade. Even when some, like, they've got like Beast Within and there's some shifters, and I'm like, even there, it's not too. They all seem to have these sort of flaws with them.
Yeah. I think it was because you read me that earlier that made me think of the Circle of the Dream Druid type, because then you've still got that kind of Fae type connection. But I definitely, I think, like you said, with Faith, there's that more warm cuddle.
Yeah.
Which leads us on to the other suggestion of a race. This is my suggestion, and obviously it's down to. Do you think Faith prefers it?
Yeah, because like all I'm getting at the minute is I can feel her around, but she doesn't want to come to the front for whatever reason. Is all I'm getting is just a very clear image of Caduceus.
So that's how she's trying to communicate to you that it's a Firbolg.
It's images. Yeah. Because when you read the Firbolg entry to us earlier, is it mentions in the criteria caretaker several times.
Yeah.
And you know that is her role in the business. She's very much a caretaker, and that's what Firbolgs do. You know, in the environment that they live in, they're very peaceful folk. They're a bit naive when it comes to the manipulations of people. And I think Taliesin plays a really good role with Caduceus. And Nina, when we first meet the Firbolg earlier in Zadash, was it, where we first met one of the Firbolgs? I can't remember how far back.
They got kidnapped.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is I don't know how, you know, whether this is spoilers for anybody, you know.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But I'll put maybe some spoilers.
Yeah, we'll just put a spoilers thing up just in case. But yeah, when you talked before about Faith, the few times you have mentioned her in sort of more recent videos and more recent conversations we've had, I thought quite a lot of Neela. I think that's how you say it, the name Neela. That character. That for me definitely, and like you said, the way that Taliesin plays Caduceus, it definitely, that was the image that you summed up for me in your descriptions, even though that's not what you described at all. That's the image like, that for me.
Appearance, it would definitely be more like wood elf or halfling or that kind of smaller shape, because Firbolgs are really tall, but the nature of Firbolgs is much more what she would be. So I think if we were in the D&D universe, that's exactly what she would be.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, she would be a Firbolg.
Yeah. And they're natural druids. They have a connection to the earth. They have a connection to life and sort of that natural side of things. And you obviously often talk about her being off on her own in the woods. And they can be quite solitary creatures as well. So, or it's more, I think that they're kind of content in their own solitude, which again, that.
Yeah, she's the one. She lives alone, but she's welcoming. You know, she's not living alone in isolation because she doesn't want to see anyone else. It's you know, she sees something, or if there's like a traveler or something that passes by, you know, she will welcome them in. She will cook for them and care for them and look after them. She's not antisocial by any means. It's just she's very confident and very happy in her own little place, providing and looking after everyone. I assume that my inner world is probably Faith's cave. It's just I don't access it unless I'm meditating, and it's been years since I've ever kind of done any of that stuff because we got too sciencey and not as hippie-y.
Now you're sort of trying to find
I want to try and find a balance to come back to that. Now I've got the understanding of what it was that I was actually doing, because I used to be amazed at how real everything would appear to me when I did used to do lots of meditations. And people are like, wow, you're really good at this visualization stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm actually there. And I'm like talking to having these conversations with people. And they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, no, it was an altar. I'm having conversations in my head. And I'm like, then I get really freaked out about that. And I'm like, I don't want to do that again, because like, then I'm going to like hear like these conversations again. And then I freak myself out. And I'm like, nope, not doing that. The curiosity will come back and I will do it. But.
Well, you know, you've got to let yourself find that balance between what is comfortable for Danny and what is right for Faith, but also what suits Danielle and Scarlett, because you know she's going to want to be, like you said, at the bar having drinks or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think we'll definitely go Firbolg for her.
So Firbolg, Druid.
Yeah. I think she has to be a Druid. The other one would be a cleric.
That is an option. You could go with cleric,
because she's very much the caretaker and the healer.
Yes.
But I think because druids can heal anyway.
Yep.
Druids so it's not like. And I like the idea of her being able to kind of druid craft something really quickly to make someone smile. You know, she would very much be the one that would, you know, if a child was crying, she would druid craft a flower or something to give to them, or like a little bracelet. You know, I think having access to those kinds of magics, and the more natural ones, would suit her a lot more. I think she would probably take quite a few feats in cleric and have a lot of the healer type things in there. But I think being able to kind of wild shape and do a lot more of the more druid-esque things would be so much more her style, I think.
I think so. And like you said, you can build the advantage with the druid is that you can build any type of kind of spell casting. Either you can have more offensive, more defensive, more healing, because you have access to the entire druid spell list. So this is that technical moment where, for the people who are here for the DID, get a bit of D&D. The way it works with spells in D&D is that you either, if you're say like a wizard or a bard, you'll get a certain amount of spells that you know and a certain amount of spells you can prepare in a day, and usually this known amount is slightly more than you can prepare in a day. If you are a cleric or a druid, for example, you still only have a certain number of spells you can have prepared in a day, but you get to choose from anything in the druid spell list. So there is potential to be a little bit more defensive if need to be, but then rely heavily. There's a lot of healing spells that you don't get quite as many as you would with the druid, but there are plenty of healing spells. As many as you would with a cleric. There are plenty with a druid.
Yeah, because it's like Faith wouldn't be the one that would you know, be trying to bring people back. It would be like first aid, cure wounds sort of level. You know, it wouldn't be the revivify level. I don't think is where she would go, because she's very much in tune with nature and the cycles of nature. And you know, it would be a save life where she can, but it would be making people comfortable. So I think she would go for the softer, small levels of like cure wounds type thing. And we do have a cleric in the system anyway. Whether Scarlet will choose to heal the person or not is up to her.
That is true. I mean, the thing is she still can have healing.
Yeah.
The thing is we both know that Scarlet will pack things like the Revivifies and the Raised Deads and that thing. It just depends how she decides to use them.
Whether she'll use them is another thing. But having someone else that could use them too might be more beneficial, because Faith would help someone where I think if Scarlet didn't like the person, she'd be like, I'm not the one that hurt him. Whereas Faith would just rush in and heal. But we've got Luna as well that's a bar, so she'll probably have some healing things anyway. So I think healing we've got covered without adding an extra cleric, because I don't think she's very much Faith, as in like she has faith, and like, but I don't think she would have a deity as much as a cleric would, because she's very much more of the earth.
Yeah, and I think that suits being a druid more, because like you said, the cleric, you have to choose a deity that you are a cleric of, and that, you know, becomes part of your character story. Whereas a druid, there are, you know, nature gods that a druid could, if they wanted to, but as a whole, they are more about nature as a whole. Yeah,
I don't think she follows her own path, and she's very much in tune with the cycles of nature and stuff. I don't think she would follow she's very much the essence of kind of freedom. So being tied down to anything, even the deity, I think it just wouldn't be her. She's very much will follow those good paths, but I think she would want to be like the master of her own identity, her own kind of path, rather than following something else. So I think picking the druid would be the better one for her.
Okay. So
particularly the one that you just mentioned, that has more kind of fae ties to it. Is it the moon? Circle of the moon?
So we talked about the two choices I gave you earlier was the Circle of the Moon, which is the one that has the more access to beast shapes. But then the one that I just shared with you was, I'll find the page. I have the page open. The Circle of Dreams. And it does talk about the druid's guardianship of the natural world makes for natural alliances between them and good fae. You know, it's all about balance.
Yeah, I like that one, the dreams one, because I think she would be the one that would go into the Feywild and would like have more of just the ability to communicate with the Fae in a way that others wouldn't.
Okay. Well, so this one, obviously, they get their abilities for the specific class choices. So some of the examples for this one is the Balm of the Summer Court. You're imbued with the blessing of the Summer Court. You're a font of energy that offers respite from injuries. You have a pool of Fey energy represented by a number of D6s equal to your druid level. As a bonus action, you can choose one creature you can see within 120 feet of you and spend a number of those dice equal to half your druid level or less. And then you basically roll them and they regain that number of hit points. So that's a natural healing element that would be really good. Because she does make people feel better just by being in the presence. So to have some kind of ability to be close to people and be able to heal them this one's quite good as well. Half of Moonlight. So that was at level 2. At level 6, half of the Moonlight and Shadow. Home can be wherever you are. During a short or long rest, you can invoke the shadowy power of the Glooming Court to help guard your reprise. At the start of this, you touch the point in space and an invisible 30-foot radius sphere of magic appears centered on that point. total cover blocks it. Within it, your allies gain +5 to bonus with Dex, Wisdom, and any lights from the open flames aren't visible. So you basically make home wherever you are, and wherever you are and you camp with your allies, you make their area safe.
That's really cool. That's like having everyone just transported to the inner world really quickly.
Yeah. So she's just like, once she gets to an area, she's like, right, this is now, we're protected, safe. Because again, it's very much that less trying to change the balance of life with, bringing someone back from the dead. It's more about just practicality. Give you a safe environment, and then I won't need to do that. Yeah. If we're safe in here, then no one needs to worry.
And she is the one that is just, she likes everyone to feel safe. So if Hope, my trauma holder, is like really, really upset, I get visions of Faith basically cuddling her and just holding her, and it's very much she will create a safe place for someone. So to have that ability is exactly what she would do. It's if like the world was falling down, she would just cuddle everyone and make everyone feel safe, even though you're in the middle of battle. It's like, in this area, everything's safe, and you would believe it because you would feel nice and safe because you're in her presence.
Okay.
So yeah, I like that.
Okay.
That idea.
Well, so for now, we've settled on Firbolg, Druid, Circle of Green. Obviously, internet, we always lay out the challenge that, if you think you found a better suggestion, by all means, let us know, and we will ask Danny and Faith what they think.
Yeah, and if you want to get in touch with things, actually, I think you'd be really good. Or if you know of a race that we haven't mentioned of because maybe we've forgotten about it or don't know it exists, and you think actually you'd be really good at this, then message us, and when we come to do the builds and the backgrounds later, we can adapt as necessary. I only have 4 dice this week.
Okay. You only need 4 dice. I don't need extra one.
That's good.
Sorry, my Skype decided to create a little image of you as well. Yeah, so it is 4 dice rolled 6 times.
Rolled 6 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Let us know when you're ready.
Okay.
Dice fans out there they are.
Nice mix.
Really nice.
Okay, roll.
6, 2, 4, 1.
Okay, cool.
6, 4, 1, 1.
Okay.
Wow, I'm loving my lava dice. 6, 2, 1, 1. Getting lots of 6s, but 1s to balance it out.
Yeah.
3, 4, 6, 6. Jesus Christ. 3, 5, 6, 2.
Okay. So 1 more set of roll.
1, 3, 5, 6. These 2 are amazing. This one.
You've got some really good
on fire.
And then some really but I mean, to be fair,
that one needs to go back in the freezer. That one.
Is it?
That's gonna go in the freezer. That gave me a 1 every time. Not your time. I put dice in the freezer if they're bad.
Is that how you punish dice?
That's how I punish dice, is they go in the freezer.
Is that how we're going to end tonight's episode of Is that you punish dice by putting them in the freezer? Is that
I can't be the only one that does that.
Okay. Tell us what you do to punish dice.
How do you what's your dice jail? Mine's the freezer.
I just don't use mine for a while, and I come back to it later.
My
dice are usually actually fairly good.
Yeah, they have to be consistently bad for me to freeze them, and that was just 1 all the time. So yeah, I don't like that one today. So freezer.
On that note, now we have decided on Faith's race and class and roll her dice and discover that Danny punishes dice by putting them in the freezer. And you're all going to tell us how you punish dice. Is there anything else you want to say, discuss, do?
No, I don't think so. Because next time we get on to me,
Yes.
as Danny, so it'll be interesting to have a think about who I would be if I was in D&D world. Like, do I have to be a human? I was like, or could I be something else? So I'm gonna have a.
You get to be anything you want.
Yeah. So
This will be interesting because you'll actually get to, because you've been involved with quite a lot of the builds, but this is the first time you're doing the one that's actually relevant to you.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I might have an existential crisis this week because I'm like, I don't know who I am. Who would I be? What would I do? What would I pick?
You'll just come back and be like, right, we're doing someone else. I can't do me yet.
Yeah, I'll be like, can't do it. So but when we come to do some more of the builds and the stuff, going, I don't know what would I pick. It's like, well, I'd pick this. No, that's what Luna would pick. That's not me. So that'll be interesting. But if anyone who has seen me floating around in Twitter space and on Instagram and stuff, if you have any ideas for who you think I would be if I was in the D&D universe, if I was hanging around at Whitestone or something, what creature would I be? What class would I be? Give me some race and class ideas, and I'll start geeking out with the books.
Yeah.
And seeing what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna check out some of these changelings a bit more from Eberron.
That might be an idea.
Yeah. I quite like the idea of some of the ways that they seem to be explaining it. I'm like, oh, they're doing a little bit of a DID sort of thing here.
It makes sense to me in my world.
Yeah. That's who I am. I just change my mind all the time. So. But thank you for meeting up with us again, Kat.
That's right.
Thank you for messaging. And for the lovely comments and feedback that we get. Is wonderful. You keep us going. So I'm really happy that you're finding out this stuff. But do check out the multiplicity and the video. I'll link it and description it and tweet it and everything else because it's worth checking out. It gives you a lovely idea as to what it's like to live with this disorder. Yeah. And to see that we're not really different to anyone else. It's just there's a few of us in one body.
Yeah.
Which isn't as weird as it sounds, really. But
really is.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
I will go and put my dice in the freezer.
Okay, you go and do that. It's been a pleasure. Bye bye, Danny. Bye bye, internet.
Bye bye, internet.